And we're live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Spirit, where we take you on a journey to discover and unveil spirituality and healing. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and click that notification bell. My name is Jai Gobind, and this is your channel for grace. And here we have Danny from Northern Comfort Tarot and our special guest, Dawn. Danny, if you would like to introduce yourself, please.
Well, is there any need for introduction?
For the new people.
For the new people, I am Danny G. I'm from Northern Comfort Tarot. That's my home channel. You can check me out there at youtube.com/Northern Comfort Tarot. I don't know. I'm all the rage these days. So definitely go and check out my videos. And I'm just going to turn it over back to you, Jai.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. So we have a special guest here, Dr. Dawn, and we are going to be talking about healing our inner child. And we're going to get into what that's all about. It's kind of a huge topic, but we'll try to do our best to give you sort of an introduction into what it's about and how you can begin to really start doing the true inner child work. And my favorite thing about this topic is that it starts to take us into more of the deeper work. And even though it can be a little bit intense to go and do this very intense work, it still allows us to kind of step forward in a deeper way. What were we going to say?
Are we public?
Yeah.
Are we?
Yeah.
Because I can't find us. Is there anybody in the chat?
Yes, there's people in the chat.
Help me, guys. Man. Anyways.
Yeah. So, Dr. Dawn, will you introduce yourself to everybody?
Hi, I'm Dr. Dawn.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm a physician and I'm a healer. A natural healer, and I'm also a light worker. I work on the light side. We do some shamanic work now and then when called upon, and I've spent a lot of years researching psychology and different subjects, but outside of the realm of the medical institution. I topped out when I was in college, realized I had to be more. And so I kept searching. And so here we are 30 years later, and many people that we've counseled with, many people that we've helped heal. And personally, I don't think that any of that qualifies me. I think that the personal work that I've done qualifies me. I've, in the true sense of the wounded healer, I've died twice, gone on the other side and had conversations and done business that was important for my understanding, and gone through all of the things that you read about with shamanic death rituals and rites of passage that would bring someone into the consciousness of a shaman. But as far as following a Peruvian path or a Native American path or some path, I didn't have the luxury of a teacher that was present. My mentor passed away when I actually went to seek him out for formal teaching. And so a lot of my mentoring happened from spirits on the other side. And it's a little more difficult having to reach into your heart and tune in to find your answers, but at the same time, it's the truly authentic way of all true healers, because no one can really tell you how to heal. You have to do your healing. You can't really learn enlightenment. You have to become enlightened, and that's internal work. And that brings us down to the very basis of all this work, which is healing from childhood trauma. It is the basis for all things that we struggle with, and it's the foundation work for anything that we're going to achieve, whether it's enlightenment, deep understanding, spiritual grounding. We must find those things and deal with them. There are those that would tell you that you focus not on that, focus on something else. But there's even a book called Old Feelings Buried Alive Never Die, and it's a very good book. And you don't even need to read the book, just read the title and think about it, because they spend the whole book proving the title. And really nice folks, nothing against that. But the concept that shadow work must be done for us to move forward is no different than the old story of the oak tree in the field, where someone left the splitting maul, the splitting wedge in the crevice of the tree, and it grew into the tree. And one day a storm came through, and this big mighty tree that it had grown to be split in half because this wedge was in there, and it had to grow around it, and it festered. And we are the same. We get to a point in life, and it's so common nowadays. We get to a point where we're just completely frustrated. We have a nervous breakdown, they say. We have a crisis, and we're going to seek help. Well, guys, there is no help. There's only facing ourselves and receiving understanding. And the only way to do that is by advocating ourselves, because we wouldn't have this crisis if we didn't have conflicts in our mind and our soul. We wouldn't have this frustration if we didn't have things that we didn't understand about our lives. And we wouldn't even have an emotional trigger if there wasn't some thing that was unresolved about our childhood, or about our identity that we adopted, or about our belief system that we adopted. And so giving up everything that is in the way of that and allowing that to flow is the essence of the work. We must first stop judging ourselves. We must first go through and completely advocate ourselves. And so even if we've made a grave mistake and someone's very angry at us, we need to get to the point where we're not going to attack ourselves. We're going to love ourselves even if we screwed up that bad. And just be humble enough to sit down and say, okay, how do we fix this? But I'm not going to beat up on my inner person here because I'm imperfect. Duh, I'm a human, and get over it. But at the same time, all the things that we judge people about really have a basis in the things that we can't stand about ourselves, which is really an interesting concept. I really didn't believe for years. I thought they were crazy. And until the universe took great steps to show me that one day. And I started realizing, oh my God, every single person that walks this earth is dealing with the same kind of shit, just in different ways. And so in the essence of learning love, learning to self-love, learning unconditional love for others, it starts at the beginning. It starts at the basic programming for our life. And we need to be willing to let go of what we are so invested in emotionally in our daily lives. Realize that our life is not who we are. Our life experience is not who we are. Who we are is who emerges when we peel all that shit off. And most of us don't know ourselves until then. And we don't know why we have these nagging insecurities. If we can admit that they're insecurities that follow us for years and years. We don't know why we can't tolerate other people, why we can't tolerate certain things. And then we look at these guys that are monks and Buddhists, and we said, how can they be okay with just about everything? Well, they gave up everything, and they're connected to nothing. Of course it's easy. It's like, dude, it's not easy. If you were to sit with the Dalai Lama, don't think it's not easy. He'll tell you to your face that it's not easy. It's your will that keeps you pointed in a certain direction of healing. And so we have to choose to heal. And choose to heal. And that's the bravest thing that we'll do in our life, is to go back and rescue that child within us, which is waiting to heal. And until we do that, we're not a whole person, and we're bullshitting ourselves. And there's an old saying from the country, I know Jai and Danny have heard this before, and I got from an old preacher when I was a teenager up to no good. He looked at us and he goes, boys, just remember one thing, you can't shine shit. But we have a whole world and a society that's very invested in shining shit. Just turn on the news. We're trying to make shit out of shit, you know. Go to any of these self-help forums. We're trying to shine shit. It's like the person that breaks through this the best, in my opinion, so far, is a person called Teal Swan. She's very available on YouTube. She gets very deep in these topics, and she is well read. She is well educated, and she presents the material in a very straightforward manner. And she does not excuse the topic content for those who are delicate. If we're so delicate that we can't heal, again, that's another problem to deal with, right? So it's very important that we advocate ourselves and we learn to advocate others, no matter how bad it seems that they're reacting or overreacting. If they're overreacting, they're that fucked up, that screwed up. And we need to have compassion. We don't need to get involved in it. We don't need to adopt it. We don't need to make excuses for poor behavior, right? That particular topic, when someone else is encroaching on someone else, that is not okay. We don't have to allow that to be compassionate. But as far as validating that someone actually is that much in pain,
I'm going to take a minute.
Start there.
I'm going to take a minute, Don, and just say hi to everybody out in the audience. Will, Terry, Allison, thank you very much for being here. Dewey, good to see you. Spring Blossom, Nicole, Amanda, all you guys, we're so excited to have you here for this special episode of Conversations with Spirit. Our guest speaker, Dr. Don, down below or off to the side, I forget. I don't know. Oh, you're up above me. He's here to kind of touch base really on a topic that's you could have many episodes on healing the inner child. And today we had a conversation on the phone, Don, and you were talking a bit about the beginnings that I think a lot of people, I thought was super intuitive or just like that people needed to hear. And really it was based on what you were talking about, personalities and the inner child. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, it's interesting that people hit their head and they emerge with a different personality. They have memory loss and emerge with a different personality.
Yeah, my dad comes out
with a different personality. And it's like, hello, we have many parts of us. And this speaks to the fragmentation of the human psyche that happens at childhood. We have a trauma, and we don't know how to deal with that. And we have no help. We get shamed. We've already learned to shame ourselves or guilt ourselves, and so we hop to a different channel and we fragment as a coping mechanism. And so, on the average, everywhere in the world, we have people that are fragmented into many pieces, and so we go and we notice that, oh, well, we really understand one topic, and the next one right next to it, we just don't get it. You know, or someone says, oh, you know, they really get this topic, and we think, wow, that person's really deep. And then the very simple thing for us, they don't get, and it's confusing. Well, guys, we're all fragmented. We're all coming into a world that we're not prepared for as children, and the parents are not prepared to have children. And we're coming through a space and time where energy has been handed down from generation to generation to generation. And the energy and the fear and anxiety has been handed down to that generation. To children before the people having children have had a chance to really understand what's going on inside them and solve that before they're having children and handing that off at the moment of birth. And so it's very important to understand that you are not your life experiences, but you are suffering from them. And you are suffering from your parents' life experiences, you're suffering from your ancestors' life experience just by way of your birth. Let's not even get into past lives energetically, whether you're born in that same family or not, which also occurs. But just the fact that we come into this life, and what's the first thing we do? We're a mammal, and mammals teach the young to be careful of danger. And what is danger? Everything that we can remember to be afraid of. And it's an amazing amount of fear training. They go into the children, and there's no end. There's no limit to how much fear training we're going to do to the child, but there is an amount that we will let them be happy about themselves, because we're going to go tell them, all these reasons to judge themselves, and we put the cap on it. So getting to where your personality is emerging out of that, good luck for your personality, just to emerge out of that. You're trying to, it's like a plant trying to grow out of a pile of logs. You see where they cut the trees down. We're in the Northwest right now. And so they'll go through the forest, and they'll just clear cut and make a mess of things, and nothing grows the first year. It's like it can't get to the sun. There's all this slash and stuff until they pull up all this material and pile in a pile. Then things start to grow because it can find a way to get to the sun. But we have to really be kind to ourselves, and we have to be kind to others, and realize that if we didn't have stuff in the way, we would be growing. And so stopping and focusing on the act of kindness to ourselves, the act of accepting, and not making excuses, but truly seeking to understand, and sometimes just identifying what the hell it is that's behind it helps us move past it. But we must realize that's not who we are. We're eternal beings having a physical experience once again, kind of like that series on Netflix, Travelers. We're dropping into this body, into this space to do some work, and we come in here, we get a pile of logs on us, and somehow we got to get out of this log pile before we can get to work.
Don't drop another series on me, Don.
I knew it.
So the point is, the perfection of the universe is that this pile of logs helps us get the strength, right? And the courage and the know-how and all the things that we need to do to become who we need to be. There's an amazing balance to it. And you talk to people that are amazingly intuitive, and they'll tell you a story of great pain that they've had to overcome, and that catapulted them to their intuition. And I found myself feeling very drawn to these people, because I always wondered why my experiences were so intense in life, And by the time I was 25, I'd already died and been hostage at gunpoint in a foreign country, and many, many things, broken my back and many things, and we won't even make a list, but they're pretty intense. And I thought, my God, I hope the rest of the life isn't like this. And I shouldn't have said that, because I would still have to die again and still have to become paralyzed again. And guys, if I look back, every single experience that I had, once I fully embraced my child, was to bring me to a certain understanding that's very important, that somehow cosmically, we're just not going to wake up to that power without a little bit of an extra push. And so because we have to push so hard, all of a sudden our consciousness emerges, and we are strong. We're amazing beings, and we're capable. And we have to see our experiences, they happen for us and not to us. They're difficult. No doubt about that.
Don, let's kind of pull an instance when you met your inner child and you confronted it and started doing work on it.
I was really cute as a child, just for the record.
Yeah.
I was adorable.
Apparently so was I. I was a little bit of a help.
I met my inner child after doing a death ritual. I had actually died, and I had this theme that kept coming up, and I finally came to the conscious understanding that everything I knew, every thought I had, was the basic of the net result of programming from my parents, from my church, from school, from the news, from friends. And I realized you programmed yourself in life based on your community and your parents and your family, and none of this is you.
Yeah, I got the raw deal on that one too.
So realizing that the very mechanism I was using to evaluate my life was given to me and was not even mine. The operating system, if you will, for the computer was not mine. And I started thinking, so how do I even know if these likes are things that I actually like? You know, how do I know my own personality? And it just occurred to me, your personality is a net result of everybody's shit.
Yep.
And I couldn't live with that. Once I had that thought, I couldn't live with it. I had like a post-traumatic stress reaction. I had been electrocuted to death, and somebody put some electrical stim machine on me, and I was in the process of trying to solve all this stuff, and I was trying to pray and meditate and figure myself out. And it just so happened that the universe delivered what I needed. This guy put an electrical stim machine on my arm to demo it for one of my patients, and I lost it. I blanked out, and I woke up to me holding this guy by the throat up against the wall, and I had broke his machine, and I'm looking at him and I said, I don't do well with electricity. And
Oops.
It didn't occur to me this guy had me by 100 pounds, and I still had him up against the wall by his throat. And I'm a between 230 and 50 pounder off and on. I'm no small potato. And this guy was bigger than me, and I had it by the throat up against the wall. And it's like I'm standing next to myself and went, Don, you need to let him go. And I'm like looking at this guy like he had tried to kill me. And I'm like, Don, you're going to hurt him. And
was that your inner child or your inner teenager?
It was my soul. It was saying,
really?
Hey, just okay. I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
And so the net result of that is I realized I had come to a point of reckoning, and people always beat up on themselves for having a nervous breakdown or something. I come to the point where I could not live with myself, with my life as I was. And I called my office manager and said, look, I'm not going to be here for 2 weeks, deal with it. And I left. I went into the forest, and I sat on this stump until I had an agreement with myself. And I did my first conscious death ritual. And I know this is part of the work, right? And I agreed that I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I know nothing. I don't know what color I like. I don't know what food I like. I don't know how I like to dress. I don't know anything, because I can't trust that anything that comes out is not the net result, the net byproduct of something that somebody gave me, has been brewing and sifting and for years and fragmented into some mongrel idea, some philosophy. And I started over. I hit the reset button. And as I was sitting on the stumps, and my spirit guides were very present with me, looking back, I was terrified. At the time I was terrified, but looking back, I know these energies very well now, and how loving they are. And I knew that they were dialoguing with me quite a bit. And it's like, we don't always know how many of these thoughts are coming from the other side, right? And so they helped me sort out that it was okay. I was safe. That I would be okay, that no matter what changes happen, because I was terrified, who am I going to be? Are people going to know me? Are people going to like me? Am I going to like me? You know, all these things that we hold on to. And, you know, who agrees to die? What if you had to go die and go into a different body as a different person tomorrow? Would you do it? Someone said, hey, I can put you in that body over there. You'll be a completely different person. You won't remember this at all. Would you do it? It's a crazy thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we talk about death ritual, but we don't really think of what that means. And, you know, that's where baptism came from. It was leaving the old person behind, and people don't take this serious. Well, I couldn't live with what had been given to me and the people that had given it to me. I thought I had left that life, and I realized it followed me in my head. So I did. I agreed. Everything had to be on the line, even my own sexuality. And that scared the shit out of me. I was raised as a redneck. And dude, there's nothing worse in that community. They pound it into you. And so I like went to this cafe up in the Cascades. It was just east of Seattle. And there's this burger shop up there, up by the ski resort. It was open. I was starving, and I had a deal. I had a workable deal, and so I drove my 4-wheel drive back out of the forest, and first place I saw to eat, I went in there, and I'm starving to death. I don't know how long I'd been without eating, and I'm thinking I have to start over with everything, and my head was spinning again. I was afraid that I was like mentally screwing myself up. What am I going to do? Wind up in a mental institution? I was really having a time with myself. And the waitress is leaning over trying to get my attention, my dazed state, and I'm thinking, I'm seeing these loggers come in, with beards and sawdust on them. And I'm thinking, oh my God, if I have to rediscover my sexuality, this is going to scare the shit out. This is going to screw me up. I said, I don't know if I can kiss one of these guys. What is this going to entail? And I was really worried about my own sexual orientation in a very big way. And this waitress leaned so far over to get my attention, her top fell open and it caught my eye. That's what brought me back to reality. And I realized, oh my God, that was an organic, honest reaction. And I looked, and then I looked at her and I went, oh, thank God. And she's like, what? And I said, thank you. And she goes, fuck you. And she took off. The busboy goes, a burger or you're out of here. And I'm like, no, she just helped me in such a, and he goes, dude, last chance. And I'm thinking, you better shut up. No one could ever understand what's going on here. But I was all of a sudden realized I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. What it comes out of this is my truth. My truth is going to be my greatest happiness. And I can promise you that it is. I can promise you that it is. We risk nothing by throwing away everybody else's opinion of our life. We risk nothing by dealing with all the things that got put into us that are ill programming, malprogramming, malware, shit philosophy, contradictions, undefined conclusions and concepts. We lose nothing by shedding these, and we only gain ourselves. And dude, you cannot imagine how green the trees were that day.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful awakening. It was rough, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
I know when that veil fell, and I was like, it was almost like an out of body experience where I'm standing and I'm watching the person that I was, the child that I was, with all the beliefs that were thrown upon me, kind of thing, that I took in, just trying to keep a consistency of life going, right? And living up to everyone's expectations in my life. And then the veil drops and all of that's shit. And I have to start from zero again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there's so much fear that fell with that veil too, as well. Like it was almost like a weight off my shoulders, but it was also the shattering of the illusion that was my life. And it freaked me the fuck right out. It threw me into a shock.
It should.
Oh yeah.
It should.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what we're talking about. It should scare the piss out of you. And if it doesn't, you're not being authentic with yourself.
So I have a question, because we've kind of thrown a lot out there. And there's one question that I feel like it's really basic, but for a lot of people that are just beginning to like arrive onto this topic, what is your inner child?
So your inner child, if you dissect this back to the conversation we had, right? Everything that you were told as a child is not your inner child. Your reaction to that is your inner child.
Bam.
Okay. So that's why you have to honor your reaction.
Your intuition.
So it's like if I choke you and you start fighting for breath and I say, oh, it's okay, it's just your body. You're like, dude, I do not want to fucking choke to death. Okay. And you have to honor the child. Now the child's freaked out. So you need the child to get to the point where the child feels safe. And then you need to get to the point where the child feels, understands, right? I went from this experience on the mountain to an experience where I was doing self-hypnosis and going in, and I went in, I found my body in my self-hypnosis private chamber that I created. And I was trying to heal my body. And I realized that this body was, again, this emotional body was completely byproduct of other people's shit. It wasn't even, was it even me? And so I energetically in my mind took that body and I blessed it and I loved it and I incinerated it. I just, this isn't me. This is not what I came here to be, not what I came here to do. I've got to just let it all go, because things were still following me after my agreement in the forest. Like, oh my God, this is harder than it looks. And so I was doing some real deep work. I was really wanting that more than anything. And so I created a furnace and I cremated myself in that space. And that's why it's so powerful, that space. And when I turn around, that's where I met my inner child. A little boy standing there. And he looks at me and he goes, now what? And a lot of people have this experience. They find their child literally, metaphorically, in meditations, in hypnosis. And I looked down and I was 4 years old. And I just went, oh my God. And I remember feeling like, what am I going to do? I have a child sitting here. And I went, hey, that child needs to be raised. No one raised this child. This child was drug up. He wasn't raised. This child was fucked with in the head. He wasn't taught wisdom. He wasn't validated in his emotions. He was manipulated. And so I picked him up, I put him on my lap, and I told him all the things a little boy should hear. And I made a point to go in every day and spend time with this child. And I don't know how many days it took, but one day when I hugged him to go back to work, or to go back to my real life, he melted into my chest and he became me. And that was my experience. Everybody's experience is going to be something different. But the thing is you have to have the effort. You have to learn to champion that healing for yourself. You have to step up. You can't be a victim and heal. And again, I'm not judging anyone, but if you're seeking healing, you're seeking understanding, it's courage. It takes courage, and some of us have a little bit more courage than others, and that's okay. Some of us are so broken we can't even look at ourselves in the mirror, right? Well, I really wanted to heal, and I really wanted, if nothing else, to know the truth within my own soul. I want to know my own truth. And that's all I was really after. And that's the key. And that was my experience. It's really no big deal for anyone else, because everybody has their own life. But the path, the process of facing the shadows and sitting and saying, okay, I realize you're scared. I realize you have anxiety, and it's okay. That's what normally happens based on what's going on in your head. So let's sit down and break this down now. Let's first make sure that you're safe. First, make sure that you're okay, and then say, okay, where does this come from? And chase it back to its origin, and say, okay, there's going to be, and you may not remember everything. That's fine, but you do get to take that child by the hand, and go, okay, let's solve this one. Let's go figure this out together, you and me, instead of being a byproduct of that. Byproduct would be things that we call maladaptive behaviors, anxieties, disorders, addictions, all this stuff, right? The way out of that is, first, stop judging. Second, stop judging. Third, stop fucking judging. And just make it okay. Otherwise, you're never gonna allow a resolve for that. You're never gonna learn anything better. And it's amazing. Once you learn kindness to yourself, I literally came out of this this experience where I found my inner child and busted myself all day long. I didn't know that I was constantly verbally abusing myself all day long without realizing it. In my head, verbally, and I thought I was joking around with myself. And all of a sudden, because I had advocated my child, it all of a sudden, every time it came out of my mouth, I was like slapped across the face. I was feeling that. And I'm like, why did I just say that? So you've been saying that for years. And I didn't even have a conscious awareness of it. You know, I was judging myself. And I thought,
So in essence, what you're saying is that when you start to focus on inner child work, what is happening is that it starts to be a separation. There starts to be some kind of separation between who you think you are and who you actually are. Is that correct?
absolutely a separation. That's an understatement. You have to become someone else. And the interesting thing about that is you already exist different before this life happened. You already existed, right? You're a conscious being. You already exist. You're completely whole. You're smart. You're brilliant. You've been around for millions of years. You already existed. You didn't need this life to tell you who you are, but you let it tell you who you are. And once we step into
Well,
that
I think we have no choice, because I mean, we're children, and it's almost like we learn what our adults tell us, and it's like,
It's a
and
conditioning.
and there is the whole idea of we choose it as well.
This is the game we chose to play.
Right. It's like
we weren't stupid. We didn't go, oh man, I'm going to go there, and I'm not going to be subject to what's going on in this life. No, we knew it.
So inner child work is like deconstructing that programming.
Inner child work is the process of confronting all of the different programming.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Confronting it. And you know, the thing is we have this thing about running away from pain. Here's the deal. While we're running away from pain, we will never solve this. Running away from pain, because the most painful thing is being unresolved. But yet we get afraid of pain, and so we run away from pain, and so we never solve it. So we try to make excuses, we try to rewrite it, we try to get spiritual and just kind of block it out. As long as we live this spiritual life that we created, we fragment into a spiritual being, and the other fragments can just stay in the closet. And you know, blaming someone, blaming our parents, well, that didn't solve it. Great. What are they doing? The same damn thing has been done 1,000 years. Why is it their fault? They don't even know. Right? You're the conscious being. You're the light worker. You came here to do this work, and you came here to learn to solve the problem.
How do you know?
The train.
So for someone who, for example, you mentioned that in your journey, you didn't have too many, teachers, in the sense of like an actual being that guided you through the journey. You had to kind of learn it. It was more of an experiential thing. There goes the train. But so for someone who is right now wanting to do inner child work, but not really sure if they're doing it or not, how do you know if you're in it? How do you know if you have activated like the inner child work journey? What does that look like in your life? What can that look like? What are some of the things that may happen to you because you've started this journey? Because some of us are doing inner child work, but we don't even know yet, because we're just not aware that that's what it is. So I want to give like the viewers out there an example of what can start to happen in your life when you begin to actually tap into that energy. What are some of the things that can happen that we can
first answer on that is when you're dissatisfied with your experience in life. When you feel dissatisfied, when you feel anger, when you feel depressed, when you feel anything, you are out of balance with your higher self. And that's your higher self saying, hey, fix this shit. Right? And so it takes us a while to come to the terms that we can actually fix it. We're taught that we're victims, right? And we're taught to victimize yourself. And so the second one is when we actually go, hey, I want to fix this. How do I fix? Well, you're already on the path. You know, those negative feelings and those anxieties and that inability to handle your shit, dude, you're on the path. That's why once you get down to being kind to yourself and validating how you're feeling, there's not an accident there. And you'll seek people and you'll seek things. Maybe you sought this broadcast out today and maybe it gives you that edge, but you have to slowly fill in your consciousness with details. I went and sought out counselors and they didn't do jack shit for me to solve anything. One counselor bothered giving me references on where I can find more information. I caught on to the fact that I would have to educate myself. Mm-hmm. And so I took 51 units of psychology. That's a lot. Yeah. And I realized, dude, it ain't here. And what happens is you start finding things that resonate with you and things that don't. And you find things that resonate with your ego and the program that you've been given. And then you realize that you learn to espouse certain belief systems and then self-validate on for certain belief systems that don't serve you. So there's really a big cleanup job there and in choosing teachers. And I would go to different groups where there would be a teacher, a group of people practicing a certain energetic practice. And I would feel around the room and I realized energetically, none of these people are involved in healing. And I didn't have any way of explaining it to myself. Now I understand that they were fragmented and that they were seeking they're refragmenting as a coping mechanism by becoming spiritual bypass.
Yeah.
And I want to be very careful. I'm not trashing on anyone. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is what we go through this over and over in our lives before we bust ourselves on our own shit. It's a step towards healing. Make no mistake. All these people step towards healing. But if they tell themselves, I've found my teacher, I've found the way, dude, that's like the worst.
Yeah. It's probably
all of a sudden they stop. Anybody that really is in that zone, go read Siddhartha. That book, this guy, and he tells the story of following the Buddha and going to the Buddha and saying, wait a minute, I found a flaw in the program. And he says, what is it? And he says, well, if I follow you, which I believe you're the Holy One, but if I follow you, then I stop seeking enlightenment and I will never achieve nirvana. And Buddha says, that's true.
Absolutely.
It's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And following does not do it. We need to honor ourselves with more information. And if you want more information, I dare you to swallow all the information that Teal Swan has available. I dare you.
Oh yeah.
I double dog dare you.
She goes pretty deep. I know
she's paid a dear price to know what she knows, and I have so much respect for her. And but she is sharing very freely to people, and she's very candid. And I would suggest that you just start, get her books, get her stuff. If you're looking for inner child work, get with it. And you know what? It's layers and layers that we'll discover. I'm still discovering stuff I remembered from my childhood. But the thing is, I'm not discovering it and going, oh my God. It's like, wow, cool. Because now it's like, hey, wait a minute. I want that shit out of here.
Yeah.
Because I want to know. Because I realize that these things that we suffer from are the ticket to freedom. These things that we suffer from, these anxieties we have, these attitudes, these all the problems that we have with life, they're a ticket to freedom. And if you're doing the work, you're not going to be running from them anymore. You're not going to be fighting with them. You're going to go, oh man, that really pissed me off. Well, in Matt Kahn's world, Matt Kahn, also recommend him. He will teach you that a disappointment, getting upset, getting triggered, that is an insight that has been unpackaged. You have simply not, that's something your consciousness says, hey, wake up to this. and you have just not simply sat down and taken the time to unwrap that gift. And he goes, and some of those gifts might take you years to unwrap, but they're worth it.
I know on my journey through depression, dysthymia, whatever, right? I started on my own path to spiritual spiritual enlightenment, right? To kind of dig deep into my inner self to heal a lot of the wounds and the traumas that I've gone through in my life, not only in my childhood, but one technique that I came across, and it was done by a psychotherapist who she's German. She was from Germany, and she used emotional freedom therapy. It's like tapping on different pressure points, meridians. And what she did, like, this is to answer maybe Terry's question with regarding to being kind to the inner child and what are the practices that would aid you in helping that development. What I did was she would take me almost into a hypnotic state, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of EFT, but you go and you chant, pretty much delving into your inner self as you're pushing pressure points, right? Not on there, but like on your head and stuff. And we'd meet the inner child, and my inner child was crying, and I asked it, and she told me to ask it, well, why are you crying? And then it was like having that conversation. I think you spoke a bit about that too. It's like you're having an inner dialogue with yourself, that child, and you're picturing yourself before you as you were a child, right? And then from that, it's not just nurturing, Terry, because that is a part of it. Your inner child wants to be recognized, just like anything that you're trying to heal or that comes up for healing during a purge, let's say. You want to treat it as if it was someone you respected, as if they had a voice, because my inner child never had a voice when I was with like people of like my uncles and aunts and stuff. I always wanted to be heard, but I was never, I was more to be seen and not heard, right? Like that lie that they pushed onto me. And I was like, oh my God, like I have something to say. I have something to add to this conversation. So really that's where the healing started to take place, was me acknowledging all these little things that this little child never got to experience and never got to say because he was hushed. You know what I mean? So I don't know. EFT to me really helped me delve into that. And it's not something that I can afford right now, but I know it's one thing I think, especially when it comes to like mental illness as the title that a lot of this falls under, like post-traumatic stress, whatever, right? Is that
actually, that's not mental illness, it's emotional illness.
We all
suffer from it. It's bullshit that there's a person on the planet that doesn't suffer.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
So
it's just, all it is it's either you suffer from it or you fall under the illusion of, or the persona that you're okay, everything's okay, until the nervous breakdown in your 50s, right? Or the midlife crisis comes and that inner child like comes like a bat out of hell in its fucking brand new Corvette to to exercise itself, right? And to really want to be heard. So,
So the question, it was JR's question, and it says, it seems like being kind to your inner child is something you have to actively take up to continue to be conscious. Are there any practices you recommend to aid in acquiring the habit of self-compassion? And yes, there are. And the other thing to mention is that you have to find the one that works for you, because for some people, this technique that you just described will work for them. For some people, it won't work at all.
Yeah.
for other people might have to go another type of thing you can do is the shamanic journey. So that's more of something that I would, like align with. There's lots of things. What other examples do you have, Dr. Dawn, of things that you can do, activities or, practices that you can do to help you step more into self-compassion?
So first of all, it is our nature to bypass it. Okay, it's our nature to bypass our healing, to find the easiest route, to do the not healing and call it healing. That's the first reaction we're going to have. That's going to occur to us is the best way. And we'll even take a good modality like tapping or something, and we'll do it in such a way that we're not healing. And it's very important that we understand a very important principle to healing. We cannot heal in a state of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot heal in a state of ignorance. That's why Matt Kahn, Teal Swan, Joe Dispenza are so prolific, getting their stuff out there, blabbing all the principles of the universe to people. You need to go and educate yourself, and you need to crossbreed your education with as many people that are giving really good information, nuts and bolts information, not like, oh, there's this technique. Fuck techniques. No offense, but they're great for followers. You need to know the wisdom behind. And I don't mean to offend anyone, and I have no authority to judge anybody's technique. And I'm not saying that techniques are wrong. I'm saying you, as a person, you need to get to the core of how things work. You need to open yourself up to learning how things work, and it's available to us now, like it's never ever been on the planet available to us now for free. And just like this class right now, it's available. And what a powerful thing that the whole planet has access to healing and help from each other to heal. How beautiful is that? But you need to go and educate yourself. That's why things like the 4 agreements, the 5th agreement, many books. There's a really great book called Love is Letting Go of Fear. It's a teeny tiny book, and it's a great book, and it's illustrated. It looks like a kid's book. It is a great book. There's a book called The Knight in Rusty Armor. That's a really good book. There's many things available to us that are out there to heal. And hooking up with people like Jai, like Danny, like myself, we're not claiming to be followed, but we're teaching people where to find truth, where to find good information. And so don't seek to follow a pattern. I had someone wanting me to just tell them what to think, what to feel, what to say, how to do their life. And I just went, well, okay, so come over to this mirror, look at yourself and say, I love you unconditionally. And they couldn't do it. And I said, okay, well, start there.
We'll start there.
And
Exactly.
they wanted a program, and as a rule, when someone says, hey, I referred you to so-and-so, they said they want to know your website. I said, well, don't give them my number.
So there's actually a really good question here in the chat that I would like to kind of bring up and answer. We can all kind of try to answer it. But this is from Allison, and she says, what are your thoughts on using Aya for inner child work, healing, or awakening? Is plant medicine a modality you have used? She is considering this as an option to help her through her block. So the first thing I want to say to that question is Aya might work for you. It's really up to you, because when it comes to plant medicine, and I do have experience with plant medicine, the plants are like a mirror. It's so funny that you just talked about standing in front of a mirror, because plant medicine is like standing in front of a mirror. It'll show you the work you need to do. Like, plant medicine doesn't heal you. Plant medicine opens your eye to see what needs to be healed.
Absolutely.
And then you got to do the work. So for some people will go to, certain ceremonies and they will sort of be tortured all night because they'll just see all these horrible things and like dark energies and demons. And these are all their mind, like projections of that that shadow work that hasn't been done. And so that's why these experiences can be a little bit like too much for some people. But if you are ready to see the truth, if you're ready to look at yourself in the mirror and look at everything that is you're carrying with you, that those ceremonies it's like the fast track to seeing it all at once in one night. And for some people, that's a little too much. So you can once, if that's something that, but there are a lot of people that feel really strongly called to doing that. And maybe that's your journey. Maybe you need to see it all like that, because it'll help you to at least get through that hurdle of standing in front of your fears and actually facing them, because that's what plant medicine does. It opens you up to see your fears, but it doesn't do the work for you. It doesn't actually heal you, because you're the only one that can do the work for you. You can literally leave an Aya ceremony or any other plant medicine ceremony and go right back to where you were, and nothing happened. You didn't do any of the work.
Here's something really important about that. Plant medicine always works. The only problem is that people have no fucking clue what they're getting into.
Right.
And most people that say they've done the work, they haven't really had a chance to do the work. It is so available nowadays that people are ordering up and doing it and walking into it, and they're not ready. I've run into very few people that were actually ready for that, and yet they've done it, and now they're more confused than when they started. Worse, they've bypassed themselves spiritually, thinking, well, they reached the top of the mountain, and now what? It's like, okay, so you didn't have enough information. Like I said earlier, you didn't have enough education. You didn't have enough self-search to engage in that. No different. And I'm a pilot, and this is no different than you going and stepping into the cockpit of a plane and go, hey, I'm going to fly. Well, do airplanes work? Oh yeah, they work. I see people flying airplanes all the time. Well, I'm going to fly. And they step in and they don't know anything about the controls. They don't know anything about landing procedures, launching procedures, and they all of a sudden they're flying, and they go, wow, and then they crash, and they go, wow, so are you a pilot now? Yeah, I guess. I flew, but I crashed. And it's like, what a fucking mess, and what a waste of consciousness. And I'm saying this, a lot of people are going to get pissed off that I said that. But guys, please understand, sacred plant medicine ceremonies are sacred. They're intense. They're deep. They do work. There's even a documentary that one of my clients just released. It's about healing using acid, and as a way of opening that gate. And I talked with her. I hope she doesn't see this video.
It's public,
so
you
still have a
chance to not say what you're going to say.
Talking about this being a gateway to enlightenment, and I kind of messed with her head a little bit to see where she got with this, and it didn't get her anywhere but more confused. And she doesn't get it because she hasn't filled herself up with consciousness. It's very important that
here's something
we're wanting to get to the top of the mountain without climbing it.
Right.
And that's it's not that plant medicine isn't a good thing. It's if you talk to anybody that's very practiced in their enlightenment pursuit, when they do a plant ceremony, they're not freaked out. Sometimes they don't even feel it because they're already on that path, you see. And when you're freaked the fuck out from plant medicine stuff, it's because in your life, you're subconsciously freaked the fuck out, and you just can't run away from it while you're on medicine. And so I would say if the mother is calling you, or the grandfather is calling you, or whatever you're calling it, that plant medicine or mushrooms or LSD, I don't care what it is, you can't bypass it and get to the top. It won't work.
It's like you're still at, it's like we're just keep being where you're at. It's not going to magically take you over there. That's a really good point.
They used to send people on vision quests and all kinds of shit before they would allow them to do ayahuasca.
Well, yes, that's what I was going to say.
We're going to fix your attitude with ayahuasca. It doesn't work.
When I think of sacred medicines like that, now there is a phenomenon, And I have heard this from not just people that have done, plant medicine, but I have heard this from well-renowned teachers, right? One of them being Don Oscar, and shamanism and shamanic, healers or curanderos, they call themselves, from Peru. And the phenomenon is that, plant medicine is sort of something that is spreading across the world, right? This is a worldwide thing. And what I have heard them say in certain instances is that the plant medicine, more people are being actually called to heal with it or to go on this path. However, this also reminds me of the fact that, when you think of someone in training from most likely curanderos or shamans, especially from, what I know of, which is the South American tradition, you start either very young, or you're kind of like identified as someone who can hold that space. And usually it has to do with, a lot of times having near-death experiences have a lot to do with people who are able to, that they like crossing over and then coming back opens you up in a way that you're able to understand a little bit better, like this whole thing called life and being here on the planet. But then also, curanderos are, they study for years to get to where they are. And
this isn't a once in a while study. This is
right.
a 24/7 study.
Right.
2 years.
Yeah, exactly. But so that's what I was bringing up. It's just the fact that you can use plant medicine and also you're going to need to, this is the journey that you're on. And that can be an ally for you. The plant medicine can be your ally to help you in your process. It's not the end all. Like you're not going to go to a ceremony and then like be fully healed right after. But I'm sure that, if you're even thinking about it, you've asked all these questions already,
Well, and there's lighter plant medicines than ayahuasca that you can actually use to open up your third eye and stuff like that. Like I'm using mugwort. It's you can pretty much buy it online as well. It's not a hallucinogenic or anything. It does give you pretty wild dreams though. And in the dreams, there comes subtle messages on what needs to take place on your journey, right? Like it's pretty cool. You can even just sleep with it in a like a tea bag, or you can tea it too, but you can sleep with it in a tea bag in your pillowcase, and it will open your third eye. And
yeah, so there's gentler stuff. You can use crystals. You can literally do meditations. There's lots of things that you can do.
So what's the overriding truth? If
you
you're doing
gotta
the work, you still do the work.
You got to go with it.
It opens up your third eye. Why? So you can do the work.
Yeah, you have to do the work.
Yeah, and once you're opening up your third eye, you're fucked. Now you got to do the work.
Yeah.
So I suggest you just do your best and keep at it, and make your healing a way of life. Make your advocating of yourself a way of life. You draw a line in the sand. You say, hey, from now on, I matter. From now on, I'm okay. No matter what, I'm okay. And if I find myself in a situation where I'm not okay, I'm going to walk.
There you go.
Never, ever should I never have to be okay. Ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you advocate that child.
And
we all come in with a different amount of angst. I don't know if it's my Scottish blood, but I had a lot of fuck you in my back pocket in life to get me through. And a lot of people don't have that. And I understand that. And there are different roles that we play. Some of us have to champion certain things. I used to wonder why I had to get so injured and figure my way out of an injury just to learn how to heal those injuries. And then I realized it's not taught in medical science. How is he going to learn it? And now I'm flying all over healing people. And it's not that, the universe gave me a better job. It's like, well, I asked to know these things and it was delivered.
Yeah.
So, so we all come in with a different role. And if we embrace that role, and if you could go on the other side, if you could like kill yourself and go chat with yourself, because you can't kill your spirit, right? And talk to the universe and everything, all of a sudden you start remembering who you are, remember why you came, and you go, wow, the benefit far outweighs any suffering you think you're going to do. And you realize that when you die, the suffering's gone anyway. And it becomes laughable at that point. I don't mean to minimize anybody's pain, but you start realizing, oh, this really was an interesting journey. We're making it something else.
Well, you had an experience where you literally started laughing, right? In one of your near-death experiences. Will you tell us about that? Yeah.
I drowned, and I was in an underwater cave. I was exploring as a dumb fuck when I was younger. And I got in this underwater cave, and I had a lot of I had a lot of air capacity. I could be under for 2 minutes. And I was relying on that, exploring this underwater cave, and it's dark in an underwater cave. It's black. You have to feel your way. And it was so scary. I was addicted to it. You know, you get your testosterone going at a young age, you can't handle it. And I got way back in there and bumped my head and burped my air out. And I thought, oh, I better get out of here. So I thought I was pushing out of the cave, and I pushed myself further into the cave and hit my head again. And somehow got into some place I could not find my way out of. And next thing I know, I'm not in the cave. I'm out helping with the rescue effort with my friends, talking to them, and they're literally responding to my words with their own mouths, thinking it's their thoughts. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm dead. And you go, holy crap, I can't believe this. You know, and you see your body, you see them, and you start looking around and realizing you're seeing more than just this planet. And you realize you're dead. All of a sudden, somehow you know that beyond that body, you're connected to the universe. And I turned as though I was talking to somebody, something, like the creator, or the architect, or whatever you want to call it, God. And I just went, this can't happen. And the answer was, why? Why can't this happen? Well, I'm just a child. It's like, well, what does that have to do in this space? You know, why is that traumatic? And it was, don't you remember? And it's like somebody just tapped me on the third eye, and I remembered, oh my God, memories, lifetimes of memories coming back in. And I started laughing hysterically at the thought that I would mourn over a child dying, or mourn over death, period. It was hysterical. Remembering how many times I had been incarnated, and I was just in hysterics, and realizing, oh my God. And I looked at my body, and I looked at whoever I was talking to, I can't remember, and I just went, oh my God, we suffer about everything in there, in that body. We worry about everything. We just suffer. It's all we do is fucking suffer about everything. It's not what we came to do. And I was like, yeah, you know. And I'm like, wow. I literally was laughing at my own death at 18 years old. In fact, it's crazy. But once you see it from that perspective, and you see the power and the magnitude of why we're here and what's going on, and I literally turned to that entity, and oh my God, we don't see any of this down there. We have no concept of it. We don't even see how amazing it is. We don't see it. And it was like, that's right. You know, you're right. You're not going to. And it was just like blown away. Like, holy crap. And I was looking around at all my fears, all my anxieties, what I thought was sins, and none of it mattered. None of it. And I remember just going, oh my God, you know, everything is amazing, like so amazing. You can't even believe it. We worry about the planet. We worry about people and the government and everything. Is like, there's a much bigger game, guys. I don't even have a way to explain this, because when you come back in your body, you're like, oh, what was that I was seeing? Well, you can't see it. I remember the feeling I had. I remember the thought I had, because it was mine, but I can't remember what I was seeing. Just saying.
That's beautiful. So we're going to do a little card reading for all of us. I've actually already pulled my cards, and I think Danny has already pulled his cards. And there's actually this really beautiful message for us that I can't wait to read to you guys. So, nice. Yeah. So the first card that we got is the Age of Light. You've been training for this for lifetimes. That's what the card says.
Can you move it? Can you move it so we can see it?
You'll have to, people should be able to see it. I think you might be having trouble seeing it. I'm not sure for what reason. Okay. It's got to be your screen. But so basically, the Age of Light, you've been training for this for lifetimes. And what I think this brings up is this conversation that we've been having is, you know, we're talking about healing our inner child. And what we don't realize is literally what you just said, is that there is so much more to this than this lifetime, this experience. And when you open yourself up to that knowledge, that is when you start to understand a little bit deeper about, one, why it's so important to do the work. And because you need to get that out of the way so that you can move forward, so that you can literally do what you came here to do. Because even though we come here with, and we have these experiences in this lifetime that, you know, sort of accumulate in a traumatic way that we have to heal from, we also come with all this wisdom. And the wisdom, we carry it on from lifetime to lifetime, whether here on this planet or other planets, we carry that wisdom with us. So the wisdom is with us. So all you got to do is just learn. So you learn a little bit more that you can add to that wisdom and that can take you forward. The second card we have is birthing a new age, birthing new creations, dreaming a new world into being. This is, again, it's the Age of Light. And what we are doing is literally birthing new creations, birthing a new age, bringing these things into being. So again, we get this bigger picture going on. So in essence, what we're doing in this lifetime with this inner child work is we're breaking the chains. We're breaking our ancestral patterns, we're healing, and we're rewriting the future. It's literally what we're doing. That's why we have to do the inner child work, because once we break those patterns, once we break those cords, we will remember, we'll remember who we are. We'll remember that we are this pillar of light, that our vibration will now be rising, and that we are the oracle.
Beautiful.
I know, right? So you have to think about, like, where do you truly come from? Where do you truly come from? Because that's going to help you step into healing in your life. And here's an example. You could come from a planet called Mintakan. If you feel like you always long for home, but you're never home anywhere, you don't feel home anywhere. You don't feel home in your family. You don't feel at home even where you live. Wherever you go on the planet, you're still longing for home. Well, you might be from somewhere like this planet called Mintakan, who were the original light workers. It was a water planet. And you can think of beings like dolphins. You might feel a very deep connection to dolphins and whales and things like that, because those creatures hold that essence of like living in the water. And, dolphins are the healers, and they're so evolved, energetically evolved, that they can heal just by being in the presence of people. People who go swimming with dolphins, they come and they feel healed afterwards. They're magical beings, and that's the energy. It's like, you got to remember that you are a magical being, that you are a starseed, that you come from somewhere that is really important, and that what you have to do here is really important. So facing the fears is almost like you said, you were laughing at it. It's nothing compared to the mission that we have. So you have to say yes to your mission. Just say yes. This is going to connect you to the Akashic records, where you're going to receive, like you mentioned, like all your memories of all the past lifetimes, and all that knowledge and all that wisdom is going to finally show up into your conscious mind. Or at least you will be open enough to receive those intuitive messages of wisdom that come through, that come from the real you, your soul, to your body, to your consciousness here in this lifetime, so that you can bring your message to the world. Your guidance is divinely guided. And in the essence, what we're doing with this whole inner work thing is we're unbinding ourselves. This is the unbound card. And the my favorite card in the whole deck, it's like the mantra of it is unbound, unbound, forever unbound, 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 forever unbound. And if you chant this mantra to yourself, when you feel that fear, when you're facing that stuff, and you keep saying to yourself, unbound, unbound, forever unbound, you're going to start to break those chains. You're going to start to literally release the patterns, release the contracts, release the past lives. You're going to unbind yourself and be fully free to like be in that pure light. So that's the reading that we got from with the Work Your Light Oracle cards by Rebecca.
That was
What you
awesome.
got for us, Danny?
Cool beans. Pretty much the same. I went Work Your Light Oracle as well to start off with.
Nice.
The message that I'm just going to come back. I want to see you guys. The message that came out here is trust the niggle. And that it's that inner voice that's going to guide you through this process. That's going within, and trust in that voice to be your guide. That's pretty much all I had to go with too, Don, was I didn't have any guidance aside from Source that came to me through downloads while I was in nature. And really, if you trust in that inner voice, trust the niggle, that's where your awakening lies, like a awakening and healing process. And it's a process that's like an ever unfolding rose. That's the ever unfolding rose card.
Love that card.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'll hold it up so you guys can see it. It's just, you know, and what you do is this is the Star Mother card. How can you mother yourself? It's a nurturing process. Like you do have to be kind with yourself, and you have to be kind with the traumas that do come up, and be respectful of that. But it is a process nonetheless that is going within. I've got the Solitude card and with the Hermit card. They both popped out, which it's a process of going within and letting go of your free will. And that's how you get to your healing, by going within, listening to that niggle, and allowing that voice to guide you through to your healing. But you got to shed that free will. You got to say, you know, Creator, I'm truly at a point in my life where I want to step into purpose, or I want to step into your healing light and be gifted that peace inside, so I can bring these gifts to other people. And they're saying it's a metamorphosis. It's a total rewrite of who you were. It's not that you get to hold on to something, you know, or you get to hold on to a bunch of things to move into the next that you want to get to. It's an absolute kiss your fucking old self goodbye. There is nothing left that you will take into this next phase, into this next step in your life. So allow that to let go. And as you're letting go of this stuff, that's where you will find your strength. That's where, you know, the commitment is being asked of you is to let go of that free will and just allow yourself to walk down that path towards healing, towards nurturing, towards growth. And you know, with the Page of Pentacles and the Four of Swords is, don't be afraid to take periods of rest. You know, one of the biggest things on my journey was, I just wanted to do all the work all at once. And it doesn't happen like that. It comes to you in phases, because you cannot begin to imagine how much work that needs to get done. And you can't fucking do it all at once. I think I'd explode. And I was brought to the point of knowing that because I asked for it. And when you ask for something from Source tends to give it to you. And oh my fucking God, that was a load that was way too much to bear in one sitting. So I said, okay, I understand, Creator. It is a process, and it will be unveiled to you, and you will become that visionary leader in at the end of the process. And those people that are meant to come into your life and like help with your healing will come. They'll be a part of your tribe. And the signs that come with it, the signs card showed up too. I put it back. I was like, dude, that's too many cards. But the signs that do come to show you and light your path will be in the form of all kinds of things, through synchronicities, through people that come into your life, like Jai and Dr. Don came into my life, and they will guide your path. Will be guided, but you have to let go.
That is so beautiful. And I want to, something's really coming up that I got to mention, because when you say like surrender your free will or let go of your free will, what comes to me is this, and it's so interesting that you put it that way, because, you know, free will is something that we have on this planet, which is actually what allows us to learn even more. Like our free will allows us to choose where we want to take our life. Our free will allows us to step into our power by choosing it, right? So to let go of our free will is such an interesting way of, to me, I feel like what's coming through is that like it's not exactly our free will that we're letting go of, because our free will allows us the ability to choose that we're going to let go of these things. But I think what it's really tapping into is the surrender.
Absolutely.
So to you open yourself up to be that channel for grace. That is the surrender that you need to do. It's the surrender of all, like the desire to be in charge. Like it's the surrendering of the desire to control how it's going to go. And when you release that control, that's that surrender that it's like speaking of. It's letting go so that you let go and you let God, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
You become that channel. It's like, and so in essence, you're empty. You literally empty yourself out, and you allow all this like light energy to like come through you into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And Dewey had a great question. He said, you know, when you let go, do you also let go of your experience, of your knowledge acquired? And I'll let Dr. Don answer that one.
Dewey, you talk to any teacher from any place on the planet, whether it's a Swami, whether it's a Native American elder, and they'll look at you and they're not very gentle. They'll say, what makes you think you know a fucking thing about this, this life? And you're like, well, but and you want so bad to know. It's like, the thing is the way to access your higher self, the way to access all the knowledge that you're looking for, is to not know a fucking thing. And the sooner you can be okay with that is the Holy Grail. And even in ceremony, I had this experience. I became an eagle and did this big fucking journey. And after the ceremony, I went up to the chief and I went, dude, I became an eagle. And he goes, shh, no talk. And I'm like, I didn't realize I was being a tourist and not a student, because having him tell me my experience is not the deal. It was between me and God.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know the answer to that ceremony for 10 years. But the thing is it was my responsibility to work my way up to that, which comes back to the plant ceremony thing and whatnot. It takes us years to let go of our shit. It takes years of us to let go of what we're so emotionally invested in what life's going to be like. As soon as we have no emotional investment in nothing, we gain everything. If you die tomorrow and you find Jesus standing there, how are you going to react? If you die and you find Muhammad standing there, how are you going to react? If you die and you find Bob Marley standing there, how are you going to react?
Brother
You know,
man.
what the fuck, you know, because whatever you find is going to be the truth, right? And so if you decide now in your limited consciousness what truth has to be, you've already boxed yourself in. You're not really seeking answers. But if you get to the point where you go, okay, I'm going to open myself up, do have the presence of mind to seek good answers and to measure what's coming in. Say, how does that really feel? Because we'll get taken on a ride or two. And I'll give you some advice that was given to me by a teacher of mine. She is the cousin of the Dalai Lama. She actually has a school of enlightenment in Toronto. She says, let me tell you something. She says, every well has some water. Not all of it's drinkable, and all well water needs filtering. So we have the responsibility of using our consciousness. We have the responsibility, not of logic necessarily, but of feeling and of measuring that against our soul, how we really feel. That's our true guidepost, is our feelings and emotions. And when we're so emotionally invested in stuff, or we're thinking through stuff and we get emotionally invested in stuff because we believe that it should be this way, it should be that way, we're knocking ourselves right off the path. And we're stealing from ourselves the ability to feel our soul and to feel that inspiration. Because when we tap into our higher self, we tap into the grid, man. We tap into the universe. And it doesn't matter what path you take. It doesn't matter if you tap yourself to death. It doesn't matter if you kill yourself with ayahuasca. It doesn't matter what you do. What matters is if you're going inside. Everything is based on this. Everything is based on getting rid of your preconceived notions, which is based on stuff the world gave you, and to opening up to universal truth. And you'll start realizing, oh my gosh, there's a whole lot of people speaking the universal truth. And once you get to that point, all of a sudden it'll be, gosh, that sounds familiar. I recognize this. Yeah, it feels right. And you'll find out why every single indigenous tribe on the planet discovered, now that we're all connected, that they're doing the same shit. Yeah.
Bam.
If you talk to the tribal elders, they'll go, hey, we're all one tribe, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
there's no war against tribes. Not now.
There's something really powerful that I also want to say regarding this for Adrian, and it's you let go of everything that you were conditioned to think. So you let go of that knowledge. That's what dies. That's what gets released. But what you step into is like the wisdom of the universe. So you let go of the small, right? You could say knowledge with the small K, and you step into like knowledge with the big K.
You will know the difference when you start feeling what you're emotionally invested in, right? Your level of attachment to things. If you hate it when people do that, you hate it when people do this, really rubs you wrong, that you just start measuring yourself, measuring your reactions, measuring how you feel. Not your logic. Measure how you feel. Logic will never be knowing. Logic is a tool. Knowing is knowing. And it's very important to get to that point where we stop trying to think through enlightenment and let it seep into us, where we turn off that brain and we let it come in, where we learn to accept, we have the sense of mind to let our logic get us to the point where we say, hey, me trying to think through this isn't working. That's where our logic should get us. And me trying to feel is going to help. And so if we're finding ourselves in a situation at all, any time of the day, where we don't feel right, where we're not happy, or we're judging something, sometimes we get so conditioned into judging, it's our default. We don't even feel that we're judging. Like that one day I realized, oh my God, I'm judging myself. I never felt it before, right? Just point yourself down the road and keep going. And when you feel like you went off the side, don't judge yourself. Just pick yourself back up and keep going. Just become ultimately kind and ultimately loving and have the desire to know, and the universe will bring it to you. And if you think you keep having shitty experiences, stop and say, wait a minute, I asked the universe to bring me wisdom. Let me unpack this experience so that I can find the insight that is waiting behind it. pretty soon you start going, oh shit, okay, what's here? And bleeds off. All of a sudden it's not trauma. All of a sudden you're going to do some work and you're going to learn a deeper lesson. And pretty soon we stop fighting life. Pretty soon we start growing. And pretty soon we start really, truly advocating that child.
Sat Nam.
Every time I came out of ceremony and I approached them with my elder with like a vision or whatever, he was so quick to say, dude,
do your own work.
You're not there yet. Yeah. Go back in there, go back in that sweat and get your shit straight, man. Like they were always quick. He was always quick to bring me back down to like a humbling, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Continue on that path.
We get to a point where the inner process, the work that we do, we understand it, we feel it, we know it. There's no need to like share it with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's your own, it's you and God. That's why I thank you so much, Don, for putting that into, or bringing it into simplicity for not only me, but for the viewers at home as well. I know if I ever, when I pass on, not if, but when I pass on to the other side and I see Jesus and
Bob
Marley stand there and be like, Jesus, puff, puff, give, man.
Jason and the Dirty Dozen. Whoa.
Oh my God.
With that, I'll let Jai close it off.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Don, for being here with us, for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge. I know that everybody here really enjoyed this conversation and that we're going to have a lot of replay viewers that are going to enjoy it as well. So thank you guys in the chat who are watching live or who are watching the replay for joining us in this conversation. Please share this video out with your friends. We're always welcoming in new suggestions for future topics. So please leave those in the comments, especially if you're watching the replay. And if you haven't checked out our previous episodes, definitely go do that. Both Danny and I, his channel is Northern Comfort Tarot and my channel is Channel for Grace. We always upload the videos onto both channels every week. So you have an opportunity to see it on either channel. And we hope you have an amazing evening and we will see you again next Thursday.
I recommend you guys take Jai's classes.
Yeah, there's links in the description. There's links in the description for all the master classes that are happening this June. So thank you guys so much and we'll see you next time.
Take care. Namaste.
Bye, you guys. Have fun.